So we are already in our midterm discussion wherein we are going to talk about, specifically in Unit 1, we will be talking about the forgery detection, handwriting examination, kinds of handwriting, phases and processes of scientific handwriting examination. But in this pre-made video, we will be first talking about forgery. So forgery involves a false document, signature, or other imitation of an object of value used with the intent to deceive another. And first and foremost, I would like to let everyone know that forgery is a crime. So there is a falsifying in here. Okay? Next, those who commit forgery are often charged with the crime of fraud, panlilinlang, falsifying. Yan. Documents that can be the object of forgery include a usual document that are being forged are first contracts, yan, identification cards, and legal certificates. Now question, bakit ba fino-falsify or fino-forge ang mga ganitong klaseng documents? Of course, for the future use or for the use of documents para mangloko, para makakommit ng crime. Yan. For their own interest. Yan. In most states, require that forgery can be done with the intent to commit fraud or larceny. Well, when we talk about the elements of crime, to simply define or simply understand what's forgery, the elements of forgery are, you take note, this one, a false making, gumagawa ng mali na detalye, legal liability, identity of the forger, and the intent to defraud. Yan. False making actually involves the creation of fraudulent writing on a document or the alteration, binabago. May binabago, may dinadagdag, may inaalis, may ini-erase of an existing document. So that's forgery. Now, forgery requires deception. Of course, definitely yes, because kaya nga pangloloko ang forgery, falsifying. It requires deception. Walang forgery na walang deception. Okay? In most jurisdictions, the crime of forgery is not charged unless the forgery is done with the intent to deceive or with the intent to commit an attempted fraud or larceny. Pag sinabi nating larceny, it is the theft of personal property. Para siyang, larceny is actually a crime involving the unlawful taking, kinukuha, or theft of the personal property of another person or business. It was an offense under the common law of England, for example, and became an offense in jurisdictions which incorporated the common law of England into their own law, where in many cases it remains in force. Pero sa England lang to, kasi dito sa Pilipinas walang common law. But to make the long story short, larceny is usually a misdemeanor that involves theft of property less than the local threshold. Yan. For instance, works of arts can be copied or replicated without any crime being committed unless someone attempted to sell or represent the copies as originals. In these cases, the copies would become illegal forgeries, of course. Forgery can also involve the creation of fake or fraudulent documents. For example, it can involve photocopying of a person's signature. Yan. Meron tayong iba-ibang klaseng forgery. Diba? And then artificially placing it on a document without their knowledge or consent. Photocopy mo yung example ng fingerprint na gagayahin mo, and then you finally, when you successfully copied it, you try to put it or write it on a document which will become now legal because of what you did without the consent or knowledge of the owner ng signature na yan. One famous criminal forger was Frank Abagnale. yan, who forged millions of dollars worth of personal and payroll checks and was later the subject of Ron Howard's film Catch Me If You Can. Naging movie siya kasi hindi siya usual na magkaroon ng klaseng ganitong krimen na millions of dollars na worth of personal. Dalawa kasi, payroll check, ibig sabihin sa isang kumpanya, and then personal check, personal na money ng isang tao. Now let's talk about the handwriting examination or handwriting identification and examination. But before that, let us first simply define what is handwriting and natural writing or natural handwriting. Handwriting, very common for everybody, even high school and elementary. It is the result of a very complicated series of acts yan, di ba? When we write, being used as whole combination of certain forms of visible mental and muscular habits acquired by a long, continued phase of writing. Yan. In natural handwriting naman, any writing executed normally without any attempt to control or alter its identifying habits and usually quality of execution. Ang ibig sabihin lang ng natural handwriting, you write, okay, without hesitant. So when someone writes without hesitation, of course, definitely those habits and quality of execution na andun parati yan. Unlike those writing, when you put a pressure in it, nawawala yan, nag-iiba yan. Okay? And that's one of the details that a QD expert must look. Now, what is disguised writing? So, in its own word, nasa title na niya, na ginagaya, this is already falsifying. So, disguised writing, in its definition, a writer may deliberately try to alter his usual writing habits in hope of hiding his identity. Writing skill is a poorer change in slant, size, altered of capital letters. Ang disguised writing, iba naman siya sa forgery. Ang forgery kasi ginagaya in order to falsify a certain document. Ang disguised writing naman, you are writing a certain writings na hindi sa iyo. You're deliberately trying to alter your writings. Kahit meron kang, for example, in your usual writing, you are used to have a pin left or a vanishing end of your word, of your writing. But because you are deliberately trying to alter your writing, siguro takot mahuli, kasi yan eh. When there is a document that is disputed, wherein if there are documents that are in question, at may isang tao na kailangan makakuha ng exemplar or something like that, kinukuha na ng writing na, and it's very easy to detect if the writing is disguised or not because of the number of exemplars na nakukuha ng forensics natin. While stroke naman is a series of lines or curves written in a single letter. We all know this, okay? But just wanted you to know that this is one of the elements or characteristics of writing, which has to be looked into then when it comes to QD examination. One of the lines of an alphabet or series of lines or curves within a single letter. The path traced by the pen on the paper, as you can see in the photo. So that's the stroke. Next are stroke structure. So these are a series of lines or curves within the letters of the alphabet. So as you can see in the photo, these are the shape of strokes. Yan, the left to the right oblique line, horizontal lines, left to right oblique line, vertical line, right to left oblique line, horizontal line again, left to right oblique line, and vertical line, and many more pa. So actually, each letter stroke actually has a specific direction, as you can see in the photo, and curvature relative to the other strokes in the letter. The most common strokes are sticks, humps, and donuts. Yeah. Donuts, actually, letters are formed by a donut followed by stick or tail. Stick letters start with a stick followed by an open or closed bump, just like the small letter, a B, di ba? Next are the other terms related to handwriting examination. So, we have here alignment. Alignment is the relation of parts of the whole of writing or line of individual letters in words to the baseline. Ang baseline na tinatawag dito is yung horizontal line that you have in your notebook, in the paper, in the yellow pad, in the intermediate pad, yan. How it is being aligned. It is the alignment of the words. As you can see, the relative alignment of letters. Ayan, as you can see in the photo, that's what we call the alignment of your writing. Now, characteristics. This one is very important when it comes to a handwriting examination because these are the things that you're going to look into for the describing or description whether a writing or a handwriting is forged or not. So these are any properly or marked which distinguish and in a document examination commonly called to us the identifying details. Yan. Kaya nga sabi ko sa inyo, this is the things that we are going to look into when we are going to examine handwriting because these are the identifying details. Yan. Example dito, number 12 meron dito pero napakarami to. We are going to talk about this in the next pre-made video. The line quality, the word and the letter spacing, the letter comparison, the pen lifts, the connecting stroke, how does someone connect his or her stroke when writing, yan, kailangan yan. The beginning and the ending stroke, paano ba yung beginning and ending strokes? Is it blunt or is it vanishing? Unusual letter formation, ito yung mga unusual letter formation, yung magsusulat ka ng letter B, for example, or G, wherein yung normal na G is simpleng G lang, as you can see in the photo, yan yung simple G, pero meron pang naglalagay ng G na, most especially if the G is the last letter of the word, na ang dami pang pasikot-sikot, that's what we call the unusual letter formation. Next, shading or pen pressure. Number 9, slant. Next is baseline habits. Next is yan, flourishes or embellishments, and the diacritic placement. Now next, let's talk about the kinds of characteristics. We have here the class characteristics and the individual or personal characteristics. Now these two are different from each other, but they are both trying to express the kinds of characteristics specifically in handwriting. Class characteristics are not all characteristics encountered in a document examination are peculiar to a single person. Ibig sabihin, hindi siya bago. Hindi siya karaniwan na pwedeng mahanap sa isang sulat ng isang tao or bagay or document. And one which is common to a group may be classified or described as class. Kasi pag sinabi natin class characteristics, the common pattern of the handwriting, the letter shape, yan, what are the shape of A, ganon, etc. Limited to a group, age, language, and so on. While individual or personal characteristics, these are characteristics which is highly personal or peculiar, bago o hindi pangkaraniwan para sa isang sulat ng isang tao. And it is unlikely to occur in other instances. Yan. What are the characteristics of handwriting? Specific shape of letters. Example, the roundness or the sharpness. Iba-iba tayong sulat when it comes to roundness or sharpness of a letter. Yan, regular or irregular spacing between letters. Yan, these are characteristics. The pen pressure, the average size of letters, the thickness of letters. Kasi individual characteristics, these are characteristics which are limited only to a specific writer. Mahahanap at malalaman lang natin when we know that the author of this writer, kilala natin, sometimes we can easily jump into conclusion, sulat to ni ano, sulat to ni ano. Yan. To simply uh, clarify this kind of differentiation, para tong dugo. Parang class characteristics ang type of blood. If you are a blood type B, everyone has this kind of type. But the only thing that it makes personal or individual, for example, in a crime, if example in the crime, there's an incident that had happened. There's a blood stain at the crime scene, which didn't match to the victim. So simply means that it's coming from a suspect, and it's blood type B. Now, blood type B for if you have blood type B in this case, you are probably the suspect. Now, what makes it individual is through the DNA examination. Now, if it matched from the blood stain at the crime scene, that's only an indication of the individuality or individual characteristics of that blood from that type of blood. Yan. But uh, a single piece of glass evidence, okay, rarely can be used to convict someone. Rarely lang. Kasi lahat meron di ba? Sabi ko kanina. But it can be, and often is used to exonerate someone. Okay, however, when multiple types of glass evidence associate with one suspect with a crime and crime scene, the way o ang bigat ng mga ebidensya na yan can make for a stronger case, which is what would happen to Wayne Williams. Wayne Williams, and advise everyone to search what had happened to Wayne Williams so that you can better understand these kinds of characteristics. So, types of handwriting standards, actually natakal na natin to during preliminary session. So, these are the collected standards, request standards, or requested standards, and post litimotam exemplars. When we talk about collected standards, these are known genuine or authentic handwriting of an individual, such as signature and endorsements, uncancelled checks, legal paper letters, commercial, official, public, and private document, and other handwriting such as letters, memoranda, etc., written in the course of a daily life, both business and socials. Collected, ibig sabihin, na-collect na siya, these signatures, sample of signatures na gusto nating magkaroon, for as example, has already been written bago pa man nangyari ang crime or the dispute. Request standards naman are signature or handwritings or handprintings written by an individual upon request for the purpose of comparison with other handwriting or for specimen purposes. Okay? It can also be trying to compare the request standard and the collected standard so that it can match. If it match or if it will not. While post-litimotam exemplars, these are writings produced by the subject after evidential writings have come into dispute and solely for the purpose of establishing his contentions. Hingi ka nito because there are already writings or documents which are already in dispute.